suis Marc-André Etier. Je suis heureux de vous accueillir dans cette conférence midi. Aujourd'hui, David Lefrançois de l'UQO, un membre du CRIFPE, présentera son invité, Mattias Björklund, qui est professeur à l'Université de Stockholm. David, donc, prendra le contrôle de la conférence et servira d'hôte tantôt. Comme d'habitude, cette conférence-là dure au total 1 heure, incluant la période de questions. Les questions doivent toujours se trouver dans la partie questions-réponses du Zoom et David les citera pour pouvoir les répercuter à Mathias par la suite. La conférence sera en anglais. C'est la raison pour laquelle ce n'est pas moi qui anime, mais bien quelqu'un qui est à la fois compétent dans la matière et qui parle bien anglais, c'est-à-dire David Lefrançois, qui, je le répète, est professeur à l'UQO et à qui je donne maintenant la parole. Merci David et je ferme ma caméra.
Oui, j'ai peu à dire. Marc-André a expliqué la procédure. Vous pouvez à la fin écrire vos commentaires en anglais ou en français. C'est sûr qu'en anglais, c'est plus rapide, mais c'est votre choix. So let's start the conference with Mattias. Thank you for your presentation, and let's go for about 40 minutes.
Well, thank you. The name of the presentation, as you can see, is Financial Literacy as Mass Education. I'm going to talk about to you about this for about 40 minutes. And my name is Mattias Björklund. I work as a teacher and researcher in social sciences education at Stockholm University at the department called Department of Teaching and Learning. It's actually a department that deals with subject didactics at Stockholm University. I'm also affiliated to a third space project in Stockholm, where we from Stockholm University and other universities conduct research together with active teachers. It's a collaborative space there. I also have a background as a secondary school teacher, worked for over 20 years as a history and social studies. And hence my interest in the classroom and in teaching and learning. I'll come back to that later. But since I'm going to make use of the Swedish school system as my examples, perhaps some details about the Swedish school system will be interesting. First, Stockholm University is Sweden's biggest university with 40,000 students, and actually the teachers' education at Stockholm University is the largest of the educations that we have at Stockholm University. Hence, the Department of Teaching and Learning, my department, is the biggest of the departments at Stockholm University. Now, something about the Swedish school system then. It's divided into two separate systems where we have preschool and year 1 to 9. It's compulsory school with a set curriculum. It's called grundskola in Swedish. It's the third language, is basically the only thing that students get to choose. They study Swedish, of course, and then English, and then they get to choose French or German or Spanish or a third language. Then in year 9, they choose between 18 different programs at the Swedish upper secondary school, year 10 to 12. It's called gymnasium. We have 6 preparatory programs for higher education and 12 vocational programs. Basically, here you can choose between the traditional theoretical educations like social sciences or natural sciences, but then you can also choose a vocational program, becoming an electrician or plumber or hairdresser and so on. School organizers in Sweden are both municipalities and independent organizers, foundations, and also corporations, and the latter is under huge debate in Sweden because they're also allowed to make profit from giving education, for organizing education. And funding comes from both the government. Every student is funded basically individually, and the students get to choose where they go to school. And it doesn't matter if you live in one municipality and want to attend a school in another municipality, then you're allowed to do that, and you take your funding with you, so to speak. The municipalities or the other organizers, they provide school buildings, food and furniture, and that kind of stuff. So it's basically a school market, so to speak, in Sweden, where the students are customers. They can choose between a vast array of schools. I'm also going to talk about the social studies subject in Sweden, and I'm well aware that there are slight differences between what we call social studies in the Swedish system and what you call social studies here in Quebec. Social studies is one subject in the Swedish schools, and it was introduced after World War II as some sort of vaccination against totalitarian ideas, and was aimed at educating democratic, law-abiding, and tax-paying citizens. This, of course, was paired with the vast urbanization of Swedes moving into cities, beginning to work in factories and so on after the Second World War. And today it's taught from year 1 all the way up to year 10 at least, depending on which program you attend at gymnasium. And social studies is an interdisciplinary subject which comprises of features from political science, economics, sociology, and law. And similar subjects, you have similar subjects in other Nordic countries. I'll get back to this later. Well, my presentation is framed by 4 different questions. We're going to move from a curricular level, some form of policy level, down to the implementation of financial literacy into the school systems, namely the Swedish school system, and then we're going to talk about, and I'm going to talk about a little bit about teaching and learning, actual teaching and learning of financial literacy in the with the Swedish school system as an example. So the first question is then, why should we mass educate our students in financial issues as part of their basic education and that is not the question of if we should do it, but rather a question of what we should focus on. And the background for this globally, I should say, the background for introducing financial literacy is the marketization of basic welfare functions such as housing, pensions, and healthcare. Hence, the individuals now depend on the financial system more than before. The significance of the financial system has increased in our society, and it's presented as a societal function almost. At least in media in Sweden, when bank executives are interviewed, they always stress the fact that banks have a profound function in society, and it's important. What they do is very, very important. And there also seems to be a general consensus among policymakers all around the world, actually, that the financial literacy education should help students to face these increased financial demands. We have one organization that have picked up on this and taken it to heart, and that is the OECD. As you're well aware of, education is one of the key elements, the key issues that the OECD deal with, and they have identified financial literacy as one of the key competences that people should learn. Hence, the OECD definition of what you mean when you talk about financial literacy is very important. And the definition goes like this. I'm going to read it for you. Financial literacy is knowledge and understanding of financial concepts and risks, and the skills, motivation, and confidence to apply such knowledge and understanding in order to make effective decisions across a range of financial contexts to improve the financial well-being of individuals in society and to enable participation in economic life. This definition has been a very, very important backdrop for financial literacy education. When you pick up on this and introduce it into curricula, syllabi, and frameworks all over the world. And there is also a PISA test in financial literacy, which further enhance the importance of the OECD definition. But that's not the whole thing about this definition. Financial knowledge here is framed as a literacy, and that is not a problem in its own right, of course, but here it's focused on results. What should a financial education achieve in relation to people? What that in combination with that financial issues have a societal or perhaps political origin and not an academic origin. There is no academic discipline that has conducted research on personal financial issues before. This is something that was picked up by banks 100 years ago and then picked up by governments as well. So it's had a societal and political origin. And therefore, financial literacy is often described as non-epistemic. You don't have any specific epistemic features that define what financial knowledge can be. And therefore, the content features in any financial literacy education is not self-evident. It's not self-evident as it is in math or history or some other established school subject that has a background in any academic discipline. But when you take this definition of the literacy and try to make education of it, there is similarities, very evident similarities when you look at how it's done all over the world, actually. And Tom Lucy and colleagues call this the conventional financial literacy education, where you have a focus on money management. With money management, we mean focus on income, expenditures, loan, savings, and making ends meet. Hence, budgeting to make a budget at home, and therefore it's also closely associated to mathematical literacy. In many education system, financial literacy is a part of the math teaching. It is also it also places agency and liability with the individual, and that is not so surprising, of course, but it does take on a very socializing perspective, where alternatives or choices is not discussed in any elaborate manner, at least. It's financial issues are presented as rather self-evident and fixed. We'll come back to that later. Since it's also very focused on procedural knowledge about money management, how to do your budget at home, it also is contextualized in the private sphere, and it's closely related to character measures such as prudency, patience, and diligence. And there have been researchers that have claimed in the debate among researchers that it's not this is not fit for being a school subject, since the focus on character measures are so predominant in the convention of financial literacy education. I'm going to come back to how to interpret these different features later on in my presentation. But this is if you do some form of summarizing among the different immense number of financial literacy educations all around the world, you can focus on these features are very salient. As I told you before, the Convention of Financial Literacy Education has had profound impact on national financial literacy curricula and frameworks all over the world. And since it also is directed and focused on how to do a budget, calculating and character measures, it's also focused on results. You remember I told you about the literacy part and about the results part, and of course the results there should be on how people cope with loans, savings, and not least over-indebtment. However, this financial literacy approach, which is global, seemed to have very little effect on this, on the financial behavior of people. There are several pretty large studies done on this, longitudinal studies done on that, and they all show little or no effect, actually. And that raises a number of questions, of course. Here you have a global initiative that doesn't seem to address or help what you aim at doing. And then you have to ask yourself, is it something wrong to use money management as means to financial literacy? My point and our point in our research is that it suffers from an alignment problem. Money management, although of course it's important, it does not seem to be a knowledge problem among 16-year-olds. We stumbled upon these results when we did our other research. It was very striking that all answers, in all our answers, our informant 16-year-old students, they presented knowledge that they were very well aware of when expenditures is higher than income, you have some problems, and that you have to calculate on this. And we have similar results from Germany and Australia as well. When you interview students, 16-year-old students, they're quite aware of their liabilities and that you have to plan for your future and so on. So instead, the focus on money management seems more like a shortcut to define desirable results. What you want to see people do, actually. But if you look at it and as an educational measure, the money management as an educational measure, you find that money management approach, it actually presumes that students have knowledge of the financial and economic structures needed to make informed financial decisions. I mean, the concept of risk, the concept of short-term and long-term, the concepts of interest rates and investments and so on and so on and so on. The things that you put into your budget and the considerations you make when you do your budget. The money management approach presumes that students have knowledge of all this, but the money management approach alone does not invite students to this at all. Then you have to ask yourself, what financial content that should be included in our financial literacy education is very much dependent on what we want our students to know and be able to do in relation to financial issues in upper secondary school. Those two are very related. If we want our students to know and do something, they have to be able to, they must be invited to learn those things, and they must be able to practice in some form these things that we want them to learn and be able to do. So there seemed to be an alignment problem here between aims and desired learning. And the curriculum and syllabus, furthermore teaching, must invite students to what we want them to learn. In most educational system, financial literacy is not a subject in its own right, but is introduced as a feature in an existing subject, school subject. As I mentioned before, in many cases it's math, but here in Quebec and also in Sweden, it's the case of social studies. And we know that the contextualization in itself has profound impact on how financial issues are conceived and perceived. And it should also affect the answer of the relation between the financial content that should be included and what we want our students to learn. So a new question arises then: can a contextualization together with social sciences offer new possibilities to financial literacy education? Well, we asked Swedish social studies teachers that, but which possibilities do they really have then in the Swedish case? Well, when we look at the syllabus of the Swedish social studies subject, we see these features concerning financial literacy. Personal finances and relationship between work, income, and consumption in year 4 to 6. Year 7 to 9, differences between people's financial resources, power, and influence related to gender, ethnicity, and socioeconomic background, for instance. And in upper secondary school, in the gymnasium, expenditure, income, assets, liabilities, and then how personal finances are affected by socioeconomic changes. So here, the teachers, the teaching is invited to relate financial issues to a broader concept of the society, to the financial system, and to see a socioeconomic and political change. And here I must add that the Swedish teachers, they are obligated to interpret the syllabus. This is basically all the information they get, and they have to interpret this and do teaching and make this content learnable. Well, the focus on my research was the financial literacy part in social studies 1B, the compulsory course in upper secondary school, and I, as I told you, asked the teachers how do they use this invitation from the syllabus to actually relate financial issues to society. Well, the Swedish teachers, they tend to perceive financial literacy and what students should learn as money management. Yeah. Although there are slight differences between novice and experienced teachers, more of the novice teachers tried to relate the financial issues to socioeconomic change. However, they both novice and experienced teachers ended up at the same place, basically, with basic money management. Focus on how to do a household budget and to do calculations and so on. And when I proceeded and asked the teachers why how they viewed the relation between financial issues and society, they say that they had a hard time to fit financial literacy with social studies. They found that financial literacy as something unresolved in relation to social studies. And one of the teachers said that it's unclear which collective or societal issues financial literacy could be related to in discussions. Also here there were slight differences between novice and experienced teachers, but basically they did. They answered basically in the same way here. So they they knew that they all said basically the same thing here. They knew that they should be able to do something more with the financial literacy part, the financial literacy feature within social science than they did, but they didn't know how to do it. Here it's important to stress that the Swedish social studies teachers in upper secondary school, they become co-creators of financial subject, even though they lack financial training. And this have been stressed from all over the world, not least in Australia, where they say actually the same thing. And they quite big investigation in relation to financial education in Australia said that it was they questioned if this was a reasonable thing to ask teachers of doing. And it's easier to blame the teachers to say that, well, the teachers should have done more, but our hypothesis was that the difficulties were not the fault of teachers at all. As it says here, they totally lack financial training, and nor were the 16-year-old students too young to or too unexperienced to grasp financial matters. They all teachers they talked about this, that the students were very interested, and they wanted to learn more and so on. And that also, I mean, there have been a strand of research within research on financial literacy that claim that 16-year-olds don't have their own income, they don't have their own budget issues and their own finances to care about, and therefore they are not they are too young to learn. But our hypothesis was that this was actually a lack of financial propositional knowledge suitable for mass education. That was the main problem. It's not clear what content to teach besides the procedural knowledge of money management. So we went on to do a second study. A second study where the overarching question was: is it possible to teach this a more elaborate financial education to 16-year-olds at all? So we went on and we created a pretest, a case describing an individual called Kim and his financial situation, where a changed mortgage rate, interest rates, puts Kim in an unsustainable financial situation. The students were asked individually and in writing to discuss who should be responsible for the situation, not who is responsible, but who should be responsible for the situation. And we did an analysis in 2 steps of the students' answers. And the first step in the analysis created ordinal categories, and 4 ordinal categories, which was then related to citizenship conceptions, Westheimer and Kahn's citizenship conceptions, to get some form of map of how to go from a something that financial issues as closely related to the private sphere, to be able to expand the notion of this and be able to relate financial issues to societal issues. As you can see, we ended up with 4 categories. Category A condition. Students that answered just said it's Kim's fault. He or she should have thought about this earlier on, should have made a budget, should have thought of that when he or she took on the mortgage, and so on and so on. They just related it to Kim, and didn't give any explanations apart from what Kim should have been doing. But then there were other answers that explained why Kim had ended up in this unsustainable situation. But they related to the financial system as it was a natural system with natural laws. It very self-evident answers that since the interest rate was risen, then Kim ends up in this situation, and therefore he or she should be to blame for his or her own situation. The word should here is also related back to Kim. But then there were other answers as well. C. There were students, quite a few of them, that saw a possibility to redistribute the responsibility within the existing system. Maybe the banks should take more responsibility for this. They should have helped Kim to see this before it was too late, and perhaps the central bank should be able to do something and not raise interest rates in the pace that they have done. Bear in mind that this was a few years ago when we had a very consistent and sustainable financial situation in all of the Western Hemisphere. It was not now when this has become a reality. And then there were a few answers that didn't see this as a financial issue, but a societal issue. Since society is changeable, maybe we should protect people from being so dependent on the financial system, on the distribution of houses and or pensions, for instance. Maybe it's not wise to let people handle those things on their own, because then they become too dependent on the financial system. When we look between the categories, we can see a pathway here for teaching, or at least we can identify features, design features that we can use when we design an intervention here. It is critical to relate the personal sphere to the financial system. It's the first one between A and B there, you see. And it's also critical, if you want to further elaborate this, critical to distinguish that the financial system is man-made and hence possible to change by changing regulations and laws, of course. And it's also critical to discern that the financial system is a function within society, which in turn can be changed. We went on to design an intervention, 4 lessons, where we can use the epistemic features from social sciences. And we focused on present financial issues as open and debatable. And 16-year-old students were invited to discuss financial issues that were actively related to the financial system and political decisions. During 4 lessons, we displaced financial issues from the kitchen table to the interdependency between financial and societal agents. We didn't discuss money management. We began with discussing financial money management, but then we quickly moved on to displacing these issues. And we focus on the different incentives and interests of different agents, societal and financial agents. We also problematized agents' different incentives and truths. The financial issues are very often presented as truths. Well, how did it turn out? We recorded and transcribed student conversations. Not all of them were very elaborate, but there were quite a few then that were. Here's one example. After receiving lessons concerning the financial system and the role of banks, students were asked if they wanted to change something in the relationship between banks and individuals. And here's one small passage of the conversation. Esma says, bank employees, they act like advisors, but in reality they're salesmen. We had talked about this, about the banks selling things, bank products to customers. Yes, exactly. Then I think it's better if they give clearer advice, you totally get what you get yourself into, since it concerns money, and well, it concerns the future. Long-term, short-term, we have also discussed in the teaching. If the bank became your friend, says Robert, but then Eric says, but I don't think that they should be your friend. They should be professional and do their job. They should be transparent enough so the buyer really understands what he gets himself into. And then Robert answers, if the buyer would know all of this, no money would ever reach the banks. So, I mean, this conversation really shows, in my opinion, that 16-year-olds are very, they are quite able to learn this. They are quite able to discuss in a critical manner these issues. And how can this be taught then in upper secondary school? Well, the contextualization of financial literacy within social science comes with possibilities. The epistemic tools used in social sciences, like second-order concepts from political science, economics, and sociology, can be used to contextualize financial literacy together with collective and financial issues, hence with society. It's possible to do it if you use the epistemic tools here. In this case, we will also provide financial literacy with an epistemology that it lacked from the beginning. And social studies teaches current competencies can be utilized to teach financial literacy. These issues, the Swedish social studies teachers, they're very competent in teaching societal issues in this manner. However, competences concerning the financial sectors and banks must be strengthened. When we ask teachers, they all say that they haven't thought of banks in that way before, and they need more knowledge concerning the financial sectors and banks. So, conclusions then. If we want to relate what our students should know when after they receive training in financial issues, and to actually face the challenges that lie ahead, we think that financial and societal systems are very important, and the interdependency between agents. We further think that financial issues are open issues, hence critical perspectives are key in financial literacy. And if we present financial issues in this manner, this also promotes financial learning. We saw in our intervention that students that kept on treating financial issues as open and debatable issues, they presented more advanced learning, advanced knowledge in financial issues than did the students that just presented correct but straightforward answers. Teachers should not focus on financial advice or judgments. Financial markets and agents' actions are not predictable, hence financial advice do not come with guarantees, and teachers should not act as financial advisors. and it doesn't, if they do so, it doesn't promote learning, because when the teacher says something, that's the end of the discussion between students as well. Since learners tend to accept teachers' sayings about things as truths, then they stop discussing the matter. And different agents, such as individual banks and the political sphere, have different incentive and interest. Banks have their earnings, of course, and there's political interest in protecting the financial system per se, and that you have to invite students to learn and discuss in teaching, we think. If you present this in some form of model, you have the different agents here, banks, government agencies, and individuals, of course, and they all have to relate to regulations and political power. Teaching can focus on these different relations between, in this case, government agencies and individuals, or banks and individuals. And teaching could also scrutinize the different incentives in a very basic things that you do when you teach about the political parties, and then or different agents in another part of society, as employers and employees, for instance. So they can, if you look at the banks, the interest of banks, and what banks want individuals to do, what banks want the government agencies to do, and what the banks want the politicians to do, in just to scrutinize the different incentives. And then this, we think, should open up for more elaborate discussions, with critical perspectives as well. Well, further research. I'm going to do a new intervention is planned after the holidays, where teaching design will have focus on the role of banks, government agencies, regulations, and financial concepts from the critical perspectives, and special focus on the difference between financial and economic concepts. There are slight differences there that teaching must acknowledge. And study will focus on students' perceptions and learning, of course, and this will be an iterative design-based research where we hope to be able to come back next year and do some slight changes in our teaching design to see where we end up eventually. So I hope I can perhaps come back at a later stage to present these results for you. Or otherwise, we will probably see each other on a research conference somewhere in the world. But that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Many thanks, Mattias, for your for a compelling, informative, and concise presentation on a large topic you have written a lot about. There is a question, an interesting question, comparison between Quebec and Sweden. Maybe you can read it, but it's a question from Alexandre Cavalcante. Can I download this PowerPoint?
I see the.
Okay. Okay, Alexandre Cavalcante, thank you for the presentation. In Quebec, financial topics are part of social studies, as well as mathematics, financial maths. And I've conducted the research to understand how teachers collaborate or not on this topic. And I found that social studies Okay, I found that social studies teachers tended to avoid the quantitative mathematical aspect of the concepts that we're teaching. On the other hand, mathematics teachers showed some concerns with overstepping the boundaries of their subject. Have you seen similar patterns in Sweden?
Yes, the short answer is yes. I've seen similar patterns. I don't know about math teachers, but I can answer it in relation to the social studies teachers. It's exactly the same when I ask them. They're not comfortable with the math, and when we did the pre-test that I showed about Kim and his unsustainable situation, we piloted this case by also include some form of calculations that the students had to calculate, but then it became harder for them to give elaborate answers of who should be responsible for the situation. So I mean, I think it basically shows the problem of transfer between learning in one context to another context, and that is something that we have to work on, because the calculations part and the math part here is still important. Of course it is. So we have to. That is another challenge to take on. But I have. The short answer is yes. Similar patterns in Sweden in relation to social studies teachers. Math teachers, I can't answer for them.
There is a comment from Dan Me One, and this was a great presentation. Thank you. Very complex. Yes, it's overdue in high schools. And another question from Kevin Peloquin. Thank you for the presentation. What do teachers use as teaching materials in class? Very interesting question for the Swedish context. And how does this material influence teaching practices?
Yeah.
Does this materials suggest ways to promote critical thinking about the content presented?
The most used materials among Swedish teachers are the materials that are issued by Swedish agencies like the tax agency and bailiffs and so on, and that material does not promote critical thinking at all. It just presents it from a law and regulations point of view. And I'm not critical towards that material at all. But as you imply here, it does influence teaching practices. I would say, at least in relation to these teachers that I interviewed. They all basically all of them use this material, and none of them have had talked about any critical perspectives. So I think it's a fair conclusion that this material influence teaching. But on the other hand, as I also said before, teachers all by themselves seem to perceive financial issues as money management, and that excludes critical thinking altogether. So it's not, we cannot blame the material, but it does seem to influence the teaching practices. Yes.
Okay. If there are no
there is one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
About financial
okay.
contents. Yeah.
Yes, I can. A question from more anyway, it's a number. I understand that financial education is made of a complex network of concepts, most of them being disciplinary. But if we take a step backward, I think that financial education lies on few simple premises, like scarcity of resources. Do the pupils you studied understand these basic ideas from economics?
Yes, it's a short answer. Here we have, I think, an advantage in the Swedish system, because our pupils study economics from an early age. It's included in social studies, and all of our students that were participating in this intervention, they had studied economics before, just before this teaching unit with the financial issues. So yes, they understand this basic concept of scarcity. Or at least they have been taught about it. But yes, I think that they do. We had one question earlier as well.
Yes, I missed the questions. Sorry, désolé. From Daniel Maldusi. You said that financial contents are not so self-evident. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, because we have discussed a lot about that.
Yeah.
Could you be more precise on this matter? An example, for instance.
Yes. Of course, finances and financial issues. It's not a mystery in itself. I mean, people in bank and investment institutes and so on, they're experts on this, and you can study it. At any university in the world, but that is on a professional level, and a very complicated and professional level that you can't. And the features from finances and financial knowledge in that sense can't really be used in mass education. We're talking about mass education here, something for everyone to learn. And just as you can't use very complicated theories of economics or political science in a classroom with 16-year-olds, you can't use theories from financial research and studies at universities, because they're aimed at a totally different context. So the key word here is mass education. What can we do in mass education? And then it doesn't become self-evident what to do actually, apart from money management.
Okay. There are no other questions in the Zoom discussion. We'll start with mine. Just one question about the future of financial education. Do you think that there is no official approach or didactic approach to financial education because it's new, just because it's new, or because scholars and didactics and experts in economics and finance are just reluctant to work together? Do we need a didactic community for financial education with conferences, journals, and so on, like those that exist for languages, history, maths, and so on?
Yeah, perhaps we need that. We at least we need to discuss it in educational terms. It's very obvious that the the people that have designed this, at least at the OECD, are economics. They're not. They don't come from from education at all. So we need to do this job. The problem here is that they introduced it, implemented it in school systems all over the world before we had the chance to look at it. That is, in my opinion, at least, the basic problem here. So yes, we need to do this work. No one else is going to do it. We have to do it to create a school subject out of it. And I believe, my opinion is that social studies and social sciences are very well equipped to provide financial issues with some form of epistemology to make it both teachable and learnable. But there's much work to be done here, and we need further elaborate discussions, both in relation to research, but also in relation to the policy level. And this is this is complicated, and it's complicated to explain to people with economic knowledge and and to decision makers where the complexity lies in relation to teaching and learning.
So, Marc-André, veux-tu faire un mot de la fin? Je sais qu'il y a encore quelques questions dans la discussion, dans l'espace discussion et non dans l'espace QR. J'invite les personnes à échanger avec Mattias. Il est encore au Canada pour quelques jours, mais l'Internet se rend bien sûr
à travers le monde.
En Suède.
Oui, bien. Merci beaucoup, David. Thank you very much, Mattias. It was very interesting, very precise and thought-provoking. So I thank everyone to participate. Et maintenant, je vais parler en français pour vous dire à tous merci. Donc, autant à notre hôte et à notre invité qu'à toutes les personnes qui ont participé. Les questions qui sont restées sans réponse pourront, comme l'a dit David, trouver la réponse éventuellement avec des échanges directs par courriel avec Mattias. Mais je crois que c'est surtout des commentaires qui restaient. Donc, merci beaucoup à tous. Nous nous reverrons dans un prochain webinaire du CRIFPE. Il y en a régulièrement. Il y en a qui sont donnés par le CRIFPE central et d'autres par d'autres CRIFPE, d'autres regroupements comme l'UQ qui va en donner un bientôt. Ceci était aujourd'hui une conférence midi, mais il y a, je le répète, des webinaires. Alors, soyez aux aguets, c'est toujours fort intéressant. Merci encore et puis bonne journée.
Merci à tous.
Merci.
Bye bye.